The wine glass shattered first.
Look at me,
Then
Mum!
Margaret Coleman's fork
Look
clattered
at me,
against porcelain,
Mum!
and the entire private
Look at me,
dining room at
Mum!
Lucerne's went silent. "Mom!" Nathaniel Hale was on his feet before he even registered standing. His mother's face had gone slack on one side, her mouth pulling down like melting wax. She tried to speak. Nothing came out but a wet, broken sound. "Mom, look at me, Mom!" Waiters froze. A woman at the next table gasped and covered her mouth. Someone dropped a tray in the kitchen doorway, and the crash echoed like a gunshot through the restaurant. "Someone call an ambulance." Nathaniel's voice cracked, the voice of a man who commanded boardrooms and closed billion-dollar mergers, now trembling like a boy's. That's when Claire Whitfield moved. She was 3 tables away, refilling water glasses, invisible in the way waitresses are trained to be invisible. But the moment she saw Margaret's face, something in her changed. Her spine straightened. Her hands stopped shaking. "Everyone back up. Now." Her voice cut through the panic with a calm that didn't belong to a waitress in a black apron. "Who are you? Get away from her," Nathaniel snapped, pulling his mother toward him protectively. "I'm trying to help her. Please let me help her." Claire didn't wait for permission. She eased Margaret gently onto her side on the floor, checked her airway, and pulled out her phone to note the time. 6:47. Her symptoms started at 6:47. Tell that to the paramedics. It matters more than anything else you tell them. "How do you?" "Don't give her water, don't try to sit her up, talk to her, keep her calm, but don't move her." Claire's fingers found the pulse at Margaret's wrist, steady, rapid, frightened but alive. Margaret's eyes locked onto Claire's. One side of her face had collapsed, but her eyes were desperate, searching, aware. "You're safe," Claire whispered. "I've got you, stay with me." If this kind of white-knuckle opening is pulling you in already, go ahead and hit subscribe now. Because what Claire says next is going to flip this entire story upside down. The paramedics arrived 9 minutes later. 9 minutes that Claire spent on her knees on an imported marble floor, monitoring Margaret's breathing, her pulse, the slow droop of her face, calling out details in clean clinical language that made the lead paramedic pause mid-stride. Left-sided facial droop, onset 6:47, slurred speech progressing to aphasia, radial pulse rapid but regular, no loss of consciousness. Claire rattled it off like she'd said it 1,000 times. The paramedic crouched beside her. "You a nurse?" Claire hesitated, something like that. Nathaniel stared at her the entire ride to the hospital, sitting in the back of his car alone while his mother disappeared into an ambulance, replaying those 9 minutes over and over. A waitress. A waitress had known exactly what to do while he, a man who could restructure entire companies overnight, had frozen like a child. He found Claire in the hospital waiting room 3 hours later, standing outside the ICU doors, her apron still on, her hands still trembling now that the adrenaline had worn off. "You're still here," he said. "I wanted to know she was okay." "The doctors said the details you gave them, the exact time, the symptoms, it helped them make faster decisions. They said it might have saved her from permanent damage." He stepped closer. "How does a waitress know all that?" Claire looked down at her hands. "I have a nursing degree." The words hung in the air between them. "You're a nurse." "I was going to be." Her voice cracked just slightly. "I graduated top of my class, ICU specialization. I had a job offer at Mercy General lined up before I even walked the stage." "What happened?" "My father," Claire's jaw tightened. "Kidney failure. Dialysis 3 times a week, medication we couldn't afford, a system that doesn't care how smart you are if you don't have money. I picked up double shifts waitressing because it paid same-day tips. The nursing job could wait. He couldn't." Nathaniel said nothing for a long moment. Then, quietly, "So you gave up your entire future for him?" "I didn't give it up." Claire met his eyes, fierce now. "I postponed it. There's a difference. I'm still a nurse. I just don't get paid like one." Something shifted in Nathaniel's chest, something he didn't have a name for yet. "Thank you," he said, "for my mother, for everything you did tonight. I didn't do it for a reward. I know, that's exactly why I want to give you one." Claire's eyes narrowed. "I'm not for sale, Mr. Hale." "That's not," he stopped, frustrated with himself. "That's not what I meant." She turned and walked away before he could explain, her apron strings swinging behind her, leaving him standing alone outside the ICU with more questions than he'd walked in with. By the next morning, the story had already leaked. Someone at the restaurant had filmed part of it, grainy footage of Claire on the floor beside Margaret, time-stamped and uploaded before the ambulance had even left. By noon, it had 2 million views. By evening, it had spiraled into something ugly. A rival tabloid ran the headline, "Waitress plays doctor. Did she delay real help from reaching Billionaire's mother?" Claire's manager called her into his office the next morning, his face pale. "I have to let you go." "What, why?" "Corporate's getting calls. People are saying you interfered, that you should have just waited for the ambulance, that you put the restaurant at legal risk." He wouldn't meet her eyes. "I'm sorry, Claire. My hands are tied. I saved that woman's life." I know you did. But right now, the internet doesn't care about the truth. It cares about a story, and this one's writing itself without you in it." Claire left with a cardboard box of her things and a suspended world crumbling beneath her. Her father needed his dialysis payment by Friday. She had exactly one paycheck standing between them and disaster, and it had just been taken away over a lie. She didn't know that 3 miles away, Nathaniel Hale was watching the same footage. And unlike the internet, he had the full, unedited security tape from the restaurant. And it told a very different story. We're halfway through now, and this is where it really starts to unravel. So, if you haven't already, drop a like and leave a comment telling me who you think is really behind that leaked story. Let's keep going. Nathaniel stormed into the restaurant's management office 2 days later, laptop under his arm, jaw set like granite. "Play the full footage, all of it now." The manager stammered, "Mr. Hale, I don't think. I own 40% of the holding company that leases you this building. Play it." The footage rolled, every angle, every second. It showed exactly what Claire had done, calm, precise, professional, and it showed something else the edited clip had conveniently cut. The restaurant's own head server standing frozen, doing nothing, while Claire acted. The same head server who had anonymously fed the false story to the tabloid to cover his own inaction. "Fire him," Nathaniel said, "today." "Mr. Hale, that's a serious accusation." "It's not an accusation. It's on tape." He turned the laptop around. "And I'm releasing this footage publicly in 1 hour with or without your cooperation." He was true to his word. By that evening, Nathaniel Hale stood in front of a bank of cameras outside Lucerne's, something he had avoided his entire career, public statements, public anything. But this time was different. "2 nights ago, a woman named Claire Whitfield saved my mother's life," he said, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. "She was called a fraud. She was fired. She was dragged through headlines written by a man protecting his own failure to act. Here is the truth." He played the footage. The internet, fickle as it was, turned overnight. Justice for Claire trended by morning. Job offers from actual hospitals poured into her inbox. Mercy General, the hospital that had once offered her a position before life intervened, reached out directly. But Claire wasn't home to see any of it. She was in an ambulance again, this time for her own father, whose kidneys had finally begun to fail completely. His body giving out from years of strain neither of them could afford to fix properly. Nathaniel found out through a call from Margaret, who had grown fiercely, almost maternally protective of the woman who'd saved her life. "Nathaniel, she needs help. Real help, not an apology, not a headline, help." "What kind of help?" The kind only money can actually solve for once, Margaret said. Her father needs a transplant, not another round of dialysis buying him 6 more months. Nathaniel didn't hesitate. He arranged for the top nephrology team in the state to review her father's case within the hour. He didn't tell Claire it was him, not at first. He simply made sure the doors that had always been shut to her were suddenly, quietly open. It was Margaret who told her, sitting in a hospital cafeteria 3 days later, her hand steady now, her speech nearly fully recovered. "He did that for you," Claire's voice wavered. "He did that for the woman who saved his mother's life and asked for nothing in return," Margaret said. "That's rare, Claire, rarer than you know. My son doesn't trust easily, but he trusts you." Claire found Nathaniel in the hospital garden that evening, staring at nothing, the way people do when they're carrying something heavy. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "I know. Then why did you?" He turned to face her. "Because 3 days ago I watched you save my mother's life while I stood there useless, and then I watched the world try to destroy you for it. I couldn't fix the first thing. I could fix the second." "This isn't about fixing me, Nathaniel." "I know that too." He stepped closer. "I'm not trying to fix you, Claire. I'm trying to know you. There's a difference. You taught me that yourself, remember." Claire's eyes filled, and for the first time in years she let someone see it. "I spent 5 years thinking I failed as a nurse," she whispered, "that I gave up on my dream." "You didn't give it up." Nathaniel's voice was fierce now. "You carried it. Every single day in an apron instead of scrubs, you carried it. That's not failure. That's the strongest thing I've ever seen anyone do." 6 months later, Meridian General opened the doors to its new stroke recovery and rapid response wing, funded quietly and entirely by the Hale family. A plaque near the entrance read simply, "Dedicated to Claire Whitfield, who proved heroes don't always wear uniforms and sometimes carry trays instead of charts." Claire walked through those doors now in green scrubs, a badge clipped to her chest reading Head of Rapid Response Nursing. Her father sat in the front row at the ribbon-cutting, healthy color back in his face, watching his daughter step fully into the life she had never actually given up, only postponed. Nathaniel found her afterward, the way he always seemed to find her now. "You're starring," Claire said, smiling. "I'm allowed to. You're my wife. For 3 weeks now. Best 3 weeks of my life." She laughed, leaning into him. "You know, I used to think saving your mother's life was the biggest thing I'd ever do. And now." Claire looked around at the hospital wing full of nurses she now led, at her father laughing with Margaret across the room, at the man beside her who had believed her when the entire internet hadn't. "Now I think it was just the beginning." If this story hit you the way it hit me writing it, make sure you're subscribed for the next one and tell me in the comments which moment got you the most: the stroke, the false accusation, or that final plaque. See you in the next story.